Tilda, it's been a strange old week in the land of the internet, and kicking us off with this theme of what the fuck is wrong with society, I don't want to live on this planet anymore, is the novel concept of sweat shaming, from the Pulitzer Prize-winning Guardian newspaper, no less. And this is an article based on the author's experience of doing a lengthy run, going immediately into a coffee shop, and someone asking them basically if they're alright because they are absolutely plastered in sweat as one would expect to be after vigorous amounts of physical exercise. And instead of simply answering, yes, I've just done a 12-mile run and I feel fucking awesome, this author instead decided to go to their job at the Guardian newspaper and write a lengthy article about their insecurity, claiming that when a woman looks at her and says, "You look like you just did a class," or inquiring if she's just been swimming, perhaps out of curiosity or simply being friendly and good-natured, nope, our author will make the bold claim that once the caffeine kicked in and it hit her, she had been sweat-shamed, and that this is clearly some part of the evil, oppressive patriarchy aimed mainly at women to try and shame their bodies for existing to keep them under social control. Okay, she didn't quite state it exactly like that, but that's basically the sentiment of where this is going. Someone asked our author a question, and she immediately jumps to the idea that this is some kind of oppressive social control, and something about unrealistic beauty standards and all the usual shit. Is this really where we're going now? Are we really going to start trying to push this idea that personal hygiene is in some way an oppression, and that natural bodily functions always need to be celebrated? Well, judging by the last thing I read in The Guardian, it certainly seems that way. But you know what? This has got me thinking, if only there was some way that we could use basic bodily functions to show solidarity with people who have been victims of this horrible, oppressive, patriarchal, sexist society that we live in. Well, I guess it's all time that we start to hashtag pissforequality. So this was a joke started by a bunch of folks over at 4chan, to basically see if they can get a bunch of online feminists and social justice warriors to do a bunch of retarded shit in the name of equality and solidarity and all of that jazz. In the same way that they did with the End Father's Day nonsense last year. Basically, you come up with something that sounds kind of believably like a feminist would say it, put it out onto the Twitter sphere, and see how many of them actually bite and think that it's something genuine. In this instance, it was the angle that many survivors of sexual assault soil themselves during the event, and that therefore you urinating yourself, taking a photograph of it and posting it on the internet is going to show some degree of solidarity with them and let them know they're not alone, or something like that anyway. And boy, did the feminists bite. So now there is page after page of images and videos of women urinating themselves for this cause. Fortunately, things have kind of calmed down a little bit since the story broke that this was a massive trolling attempt. Although I do find it rather amusing that feminists have to be told to not piss themselves. However, what I do enjoy most about this entire event has been the reaction from both the feminist side and the anti-feminist side. The feminist side looking at all of the blatant sock puppet and troll accounts on Twitter and saying, no real feminist has actually done this, it's only trolls giving the illusion that it happened. And then the anti-feminist side looking only at the feminists who actually fell for the bait, and doing the hurdy-durdy-dur feminist so dumb thing. In reality, we are probably never going to know how many people actually fell for this stupid shit, but we do get to live the rest of our lives in the comfortable knowledge that at least one idiot has had their stupidity immortalized in this video on the internet. Fucking lol. But you have to remember that Twitter is serious business. And this is something that Bahar Mustafa found out earlier this week. Yes, the banning straight white men from an event that they have every right to go to isn't racist, Bahar Mustafa. So apparently the police wanted to speak to her regarding her #KillAllWhiteMen messages. Probably because under UK law, such a statement will almost certainly be covered under the incitement to racial hatred law. An offence that is committed when the accused person says or does something which is threatening, abusive, or insulting, and by doing so, either intends to stir up racial hatred or makes it likely that racial hatred will be stirred up. This can include such things as making a speech, displaying a racist poster, publishing written material, performing a play, or broadcasting something in the media. Now, I don't know about you, but calling for all white men to be killed certainly sounds like it falls within that law. And there does seem to be a number of precedent cases within a similar vein to this one, with people being convicted for threats of violence even if they were jokes online. But I can't wait for her to get up in front of a judge and try and pull this shit.
Furthermore, there have been charges made against me that I am racist and sexist to white men. I want to explain why this is false. I, an ethnic minority woman, cannot be racist or sexist towards white men because racism and sexism describe structures of privilege based on race and gender. And therefore women of colour and minority genders cannot be racist or sexist since we do not stand to benefit from such a system.
Yeah, that shit ain't gonna fly as far as the law is concerned. And frankly, there is just something so damn satisfying about watching a feminist get hoisted by their own petard. Especially considering the UN's recent paper about cyber violence, and the speeches given by Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian, also at the United Nations. And this is frankly the sign of the feminist chicken coming home to roost. When you campaign for saying you suck and calling someone a liar on the internet to be classed as harassment and indeed violence that must be taken just as seriously as physical violence, and demand that those people be censored or just outright arrested, well, this is the hook that comes with it. You are not immune from your own demands. If you want this level of censorship to become legalized, then you must accept that this law will apply to you as well. There will be no double standards. If you want criticism of feminism and criticism of social justice, or even just criticism of a woman, to be classed as violence that must either be censored or punished, then the same thing applies to those people. And any criticism of anyone must be considered harassment, and therefore punished just as though it was an act of physical violence. And thus we begin our march to the glorious year 1984. Fortunately, after numerous people analysed the UN paper and found it to be absolute garbage, poorly written with terrible citations, half of which were invalid either by virtue of being repetitions of earlier sources, totally blank, or a link to a local computer's hard drive, the UN decided to withdraw the report, promising that a revised and more accurate version of the report will be available within 2 weeks, but with a caveat that there is no definitive time frame. Which makes me wonder whether this is just code for, we're going to hope that everyone forgets about it so we don't have to put it back out there. Which on a personal note, I find rather frustrating, because I was kind of a quarter of the way through the report and making a video about it, and now all of that work appears to have been for naught. Maybe I'll just finish up what little I have and put it up anyway, so that you can get a general idea of just how terrible said report was. Although I do greatly look forward to the new, supposedly improved version, which might maybe possibly perhaps be coming in 2 weeks. Or whenever the hell the UN feels like it. Fortunately, with all of that stupidity out of the way, things can only get better from here, right? So what? What the hell am I reading? This is serious. No. No, I'm done. I'm fucking done. Fuck you, Internet.